My throat's all messed up. Okay, this is the Coast to Coast Combat Hour, July 28th, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Ed Carball here, as always, with Matthew Hawkins. We got a lot to talk about, Matt. Everybody's back except the PFL. I don't know, man. I feel like there's something you might want to get off your chest. I don't know if we should jump right into the UFC because we've also been super happy about Bellator's. We kept talking about Bellator coming back, and then out of the blue they came back, and I wasn't disappointed. It's the first one I wasn't there for because it was in my neck of the woods. But I don't know, man. What shall we begin with?
Yeah, why don't we just work our way through the weekend before we get to to the main event of the show.
All right.
No. So Friday we had Bellator return, which for us was great. For the MMA world's great. Card was okay. I'm not going to oversell it. It was a shorter 7-bout card.
Yeah.
The winner of the night, in my opinion, was Aaron Pico. We talked about him with Hunter last week, and
yeah.
He really couldn't have put on a much better performance. I think that was what we, at least in my mind, that's how I picture Aaron Pico fighting. Not so much disregarding his boxing, but using his wrestling to his advantage, and then using his extreme quickness and power that he has in his punches to really inflict damage on the ground.
Yeah. I think it just, with him, it's either, he just needs time, man. Because, when he tried to use his wrestling, everyone was expecting it in that first fight, and he got guillotined. You know what I mean? So he just has to learn to. A buddy of mine who trains at a Top FC over in Korea, he put up a funny video today of somebody squirted water in his face. That whole gag where they make you look in the bottle and squirt in your face. But he opened it up with how feints are used in martial arts, and I think he just needs to know how to feint, like make his opponent think about something else, so he can impose, what he really wants to do. And it looks like they're working on that with him. Based on that fight, I feel like just people, obviously, you got a lot of trolls and haters out there talking about, okay, they gave him a tomato can to, pad his record or whatever. But, none of these guys, they're not going to pay you or me to fight. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's a threat if you were ready and on weight and ready to fight. So I just think he needs time.
Yeah, I don't think the guy got as a can. The guy was 8-2. Went over Bolaños.
Yeah, I was actually worried that it was another strong opponent.
I just think he fought the perfect fight. I think that's what, if Aaron Pico does that, then he's not going to lose a lot of fights. He's not going to lose to guys he should beat. Let's put it that way. You're always going to have that chance to get caught when you're fighting the Corraleses and the Boricks of the world, because those guys are also uber talented. But the guys that you should beat using the style he did, basically take him down, just beat the living hell out of him and submit him is I think the winning ingredients for him to continue. So that was the main card. That was the one. JJ Wilson picking up kind of a controversial split decision over Taiwan Claxton. It's a big win for Wilson. He moves to 6-0. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on. But it was a real close fight. And then the main event, Sergio Pettis, Ricky Bandejas, really was kind of uneventful. Pettis looked good, picked up the win, but not a whole lot to really talk about. Pettis does move basically to become the number one contender in the 135-pound Bellator weight class. Right now, the rumor is Patrick Mix and Juan Archuleta will face off here in the near future for the vacated title that was left behind by Horiguchi, who also appears to be mending. I see him kind of flirting the ideas of a return. So,
because it was not that. It feels. I forget when that was announced, because it just seems like everything is all out of whack because of the pandemic. But yeah, I would hope he'd be back at least by. It'd be poetic if he came back on New Year's Eve on a Rising card.
Yeah, I mean, he's. I think he's in. I don't know where he's at. He may be in Japan. He may be in the States. I'm not real positive. Um, the problem with Bellator that the UFC is not really facing, because the UFC just has deep pockets, is going to be the international travel and trying to work around to get a lot of their stars, international stars, into the United States. Which I don't know even what the rules are right now,
Yeah,
especially with the UFC coming back to Las Vegas now for August. Um, it just doesn't seem like all of a sudden the travel restrictions don't seem to be the problem that they were just last week when we had
yeah.
that Fight Island. So
Depending
I'm
on
not,
where you are, yeah, that's true.
it's weird. I mean, we're gonna get to him, but they're talking about trying to give Chimaev um, a fight on the UFC. I think the August
One of
15th.
the August ones, yeah.
But that's in Vegas, and I thought that we couldn't just fly people in from Sweden or the people or Dagestan or
I mean,
you
maybe
know.
it helps to have Donald Trump as your buddy. So you never know.
Um, yeah. So who knows? We'll have to just kind of see how that unfolds. Um, but
I I,
that'll be
I,
interesting. I just don't know what Bellator is going to do in the long run
I
with
mean,
it to keep
they
things.
they always get flack for you know, oh you always take a guy, you sign guys, your big signees are guys on their way out and this that and that, and no one really. I mean, we know about them, but like your casual fan, the UFC nut huggers don't. They always, the young. You just mentioned Patrick Mix, Juan Archuleta. Their younger talent that's on the rise. This is the perfect time. I mean, I've been trying to come up with a piece, and I want to submit it to Sure Dog, but I just need time to get my thoughts together. But this the opportunity for fighters that, I mean, look at all the guys we've never heard of that fought in the UFC Apex and in Fight Island. All of a sudden, are either they've become trending. I mean, we've had Justin James on the show. We just mentioned I know we're gonna get to Chimaev, but so many other fighters that are getting opportunities. He was for the I know he lost, but John Castaneda, who fought this weekend on the opener, he was on Contender Series and lost. You didn't think you were going to see him there again. So I think Bellator should just do that. Like, I mean, there's so much talent in the Northeast that's trying to get in somewhere. Use them, use them. If especially there's guys that that had to walk away and come back. I spoke with Sergio Da Silva, who fights out of Queens, and he's already got fights booked, but which means he's cleared to go despite his the stuff that you've read about him. So I mean, it's a crazy time. So why not do some crazy things?
Yeah, and I think that Bellator can survive a little bit if they're only going to do like 7 or 8 fight events. They're not going to have we're not going to have the 19 fight cards like we were having
Mm-hmm.
before. I mean, looking ahead a couple weeks, it does look like they're doing a pretty good job of making fights.
Yeah,
So so we'll see how it goes. But you know, uh, overall, the return was cool. I liked the look. I thought they did a good job with the Mohegan Sun to transform it into a more intimate looking venue. Um, so, I mean, I think all in all, it's just a good return for Bellator. Um, and although the fights, like I said, weren't the most entertaining, you have to get the ball rolling again, and
yeah.
that's what they did. Another event that returned Friday night. I don't know if you were managed to catch it. Was Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 11.
I,
Um,
I didn't. There's so much going on Friday between Bellator, LFA, and that. I was kind of between Bellator and LFA and just following the Twitter feed for that.
well, I mean, it was from start to finish. Essentially, it was nonstop violence, all knockouts, other than 2 split decisions. Not going to go down the whole card. We talked a little bit with Hunter about the main event: Luis Palomino versus Isaac Valley Flag.
Yeah, he won, right?
Palomino picks up the world championship, 155-pound, 45
Nice.
second knockout. Basically,
Wow.
just went and just crushed him. Split
First
him wide
round.
open. First round, 45 seconds in.
Wow.
Uh, you know, they felt each other out for a few seconds, and then Palomino just blasted him, and then him with about 3-punch combination, and that was all she wrote. There was a lot of blood, and Flegg didn't really look like he knew, or he didn't want no more. Let's put it that way. So, big win for Palomino.
Yeah.
Fun event, fans in the crowd. Distance in the crowd, but they were there, so there was a little bit of an atmosphere. And BKFC announced that they have also signed for some exclusive shows with DAZN.
Yeah.
So while Bellator seems to be on the way out with DAZN, DAZN seems to be more focused on the boxing aspect of fighting.
Yeah.
And although BKFC is
That,
not boxing,
uh,
it's essentially bare knuckle.
I gotta say, man. I mean, you're gonna have your chance to rant on what you want to rant on. So I'm just gonna do a small one. DAZN really. I mean, this is our podcast, so I don't mind saying it here. DAZN really dropped the ball when it came to trying to be the premier fight night location for combat sports, because all they did was push boxing. They had KSW on there, a couple of other MMA. I think I mentioned Top FC. I think they were on there too. And you never, if you look at their social, I mean, when I spoke with James Rushton at the announcement when they did the partnership with Bellator, they said they do social listening and this, that, and the other, but it doesn't look like it, because if all you're going to do is push boxing, and that's all we're going to see with boxing, and then that's the sport that was paused, for the longest, or the UFC came back first, and then Top Rank came, but DAZN is just now coming back with their boxing, and I just feel like they dropped the ball there. They could have had more numbers, and they probably could have gotten going with some regional stuff that had been allowed soon, but they obviously they were never serious about it. And I think it shows when you look back. It just showed that they were never serious about it, and even when they had Bellator stuff, they never pushed it as much as. I mean, I would have it all over social media, 24/7, especially on fight weeks, at least from the Wednesday till the event, But no, it's crazy. Like you had all this stuff going on, all these great fights going on, trash talk, press conferences and stuff, and you never really saw them push that content the way that they push boxing. So I think it's good there. I actually think Bellator will be better off with Showtime when they finally start doing stuff with Showtime.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think DAZN really paid off for them. It was nice to get that financial stability in the beginning, but the long run, it didn't pay off. Obviously, it was throwing a monkey wrench with this COVID situation, because that's where my beef with DAZN would go. And I wasn't a subscriber for the last few months, or for the last year, let's say. I was for about the first 6 months when it was month to month. Once they decided that they wanted to double the price essentially, and then have this hit and still be charging people full monthly fees for a service that isn't offering anything. It's a service that's based off the live product, and when there's no live product for 4 or 5 months, it doesn't sit well with me when you're charging people. It seems like you should have suspended people's suspension, or subscriptions. Suspend
Yeah.
those for at least a couple months.
Yeah, or pause charging it or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll see how that goes. But they never really seemed all that focused on Bellator. I know that they kind of got involved a little bit with the Grand Prix scene there, and promoted that. But other than that, it doesn't seem like it's been a great two-way partnership. So
No.
yeah, Showtime, CBS, Viacom can really. If
I even asked him. I even asked Rushton, the guy that's supposed to be running one of the many chiefs in charge of the zone that the top heavy executive or whatever it is. I even asked him. I was like, "Would you add other combat sports like kickboxing?" Because and it's in that video on this YouTube channel when I talked to Coker. Would you bring back Dynamite? Like do a big super event and put that make that a DAZN exclusive. Maybe add some grappling in there. And when I mentioned it to, I mean, obviously Coker was on board, but when I mentioned it to Rushton, he was kind of just like, "Yeah, we'll see. We got to see what the fans say and want." But it's like you're not gonna if you're not gonna hear those fans if you don't market to them, because they're not really gonna listen to you either. I mean, if every other day you see Canelo Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is just boxing. So
I agree. We didn't get any of the creativeness that we were kind of hoping.
Should have hired me is what they should have done.
There you go. Probably would have worked. So that was Bellator, BKFC. That kind of rolled into then Saturday, where we had Fight Island 3, 4, 3.5, whatever, ESPN Plus 27, whatever the heck they're calling it.
Yeah.
But good 15 fight event.
15 fights, and they started at 5:00 my time. I loved it. I actually watched it with my family. My mom and my parents were all into it. It's crazy.
It's amazing they're able to get through a 7-fight main card in 3 hours, huh? When we get 5 fights normally.
Yeah, I mean they. I think they drew the ratings because that can be measured. I think I saw MMA Junkie John tweeted that they did like 1.4 million or something like that. And, I mean, like that needs to be a thing. Like, do that all the time.
Yeah, fights delivered.
Yeah,
thought they were good. Regret not after seeing the odds and talking about it with Hunter last week. It seemed. I mean, it's hindsight now, but not putting the house on Verdun seems like a foolish move. The fact that he was basically a plus 300 underdog is.
I put $2 on him.
Well, you won like 575. So
no, I won like $18 because I did a prop bet for that he'd win by submission.
Oh, there you go. I mean,
yeah,
that's the yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have more $2. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, my broke ass, I like to play it safe, but that was nice. That was nice.
No, I mean it's hindsight, and
yeah.
I think we even thought that Verdun was going to be the favorite when we kind of started talking, and then I pointed out that Gustafsson was actually a huge favorite. So again, hindsight, but it was tailor made for Verdun. And when you look at it really and see, especially after looking with John Jones, how he was able to control Verdun Gustafsson on the ground, and once Verdun got it to the mat, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah,
The submission, he worked that submission nonstop, and once he gets the arm, essentially, once he gets a hold of his wrists, in the guy's arm, trying to lock the guy's arm.
Well, he did so many things that just smothered Gustafsson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the back take to dragging him back, and then transitioning to the arm off of the attempted choke, which is it was just everyone's saying, like, obviously at heavyweight he's still probably the best jiu-jitsu guy there is, and that was I don't want to say it was textbook armbar, but because I mean there was a lot of trickery involved in getting the arm like that, but it was definitely a great I mean the sequence was it's textbook at the master's level, you know what I mean? And
I was going to say, it was kind of like watching a instructional video.
Yeah.
It was like step by step, and you used to see that kind of in the beginning days of MMA when you would see a guy who was just totally outclassing somebody, and they would totally do the transition from this to that to that to that, the steps it takes to finish the move, and you could actually see it there. It went from crossing the legs to uncrossing them to locking, just so I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Again,
nice way to leave if that's going to be it for him there, because there's talk of him and Fedor, because Fedor's was supposed to finish his retirement tour. I wouldn't mind a rematch with them, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's the fight. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I do lose a little steam for Verdun, considering he's basically coming off of a PED suspension. So I don't have a problem if he fights Fedor, but I just don't.
That don't matter.
It doesn't matter, but it does when one guy's 5 inches taller, and Verdun's a huge dude. It's kind of the Bigfoot scenario. When Bigfoot on steroids is a different Bigfoot than Bigfoot that's getting knocked out by Gabriel Gonzaga. I mean, it's a different thing. So we'll see. I think it's the fight that's probably going to happen. It makes a lot of sense. He's already talking about it. I don't know why Bellator wouldn't go that route. I mean, really, you could essentially do like a 4-man tournament almost. You could do Verdun, Fedor, and then do Bader and who is he? Who is he? I can't remember who's in line for the heavyweight. It's been so long now. Maybe even the oh my gosh, name slips mind. The Russian guy.
The Russian guy,
Well, I mean, you got
Minikov? No.
Karatanov, and then you've got
Vitaly Minikov?
there you go, Minikov.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of you could kind of do almost a little tournament. Maybe we do it. You know, they know they had a heavyweight Grand Prix, but it wasn't a true heavyweight one. Maybe we even do another 8-man or even a 4-man true heavyweight Grand Prix with all real heavyweights. Although Bader could be argued isn't a real heavyweight, but if he weighs in at 245 and smashes fools, then he qualifies.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the Verdun fight. The co-main event that night, Mauricio Shogun Rua, Little Nog, Nogueira. Rua goes to 3-0 in their trilogy bouts. The second split decision win in a row. I don't know how you saw the fight. Did you agree with the judges? Is that how you saw it?
I don't know if I agreed with them. I like what, because didn't his nose get like damaged during that fight?
Oh, Rua had his moments where he got beat up. I mean,
that's the moments. Those are the moments that I mentioned when we had Hunter on last week. That I'm just like, sometimes he either handles that well or it messes him up for the whole fight. And it looked like he was teetering in this one, but you know.
No, I mean, I'm not complaining.
Maybe it's a receding hairline on Little Nog that the judges scored against. I don't know.
You know, I went into it rooting for Shogun, and then kind of as it started, I kind of wanted rooting for Nogueira a little bit when you start seeing his retirement fight, and it would have obviously meant a huge thing for him to pick up this win to go out on. So I always like to see that, but I mean, I don't really have a problem with the decision. I thought Nogueira might have actually won the fight, but it was one of those fights where a draw probably is the right call, which we have a ton of those. But Shogun wins, keeps moving. I guess that's the difference, is he had to win. A loss there would have been crippling probably to his attempt to work his way back up into some big contender fights. And then the main event of the night, Robert Whittaker, 5-round decision win over Darren Till. Another extremely close fight. All three judges gave it 3 rounds to 2 to Whittaker. Kind of how I saw it, but again, a fight that could have went either way. And again, I would have been okay with a draw. Real close fights. Till looked a lot better than I gave him credit for. I haven't been on the Till train, but I thought he looked better in this fight than I feel like I've seen him in many of his other fights. I think it's maybe the Wonder Boy fight that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. But I thought he looked good despite losing the decision. I thought Till looked good at 185 against a former champion, and I think the future is bright for Till once he, being as young as he is. Whittaker, takes some punishment, but manages to regroup and get the decision win, and keeping him right in the right there for the very likely we'll get another title shot in the next fight or two, depending on how Adesanya and Costa unfolds. I believe that one's also scheduled for August.
Yeah, I thought he looked good too. I actually thought I know Whittaker won, but he actually Till says I didn't hear anything today as far as like how damaged his knee was, but the downward stomp kick that Whittaker was using might have damaged his knee. So I think as much as I liked seeing him fight at that weight, he might be out for a little bit, which sucks because I know, Mike Perry's suspended for his shenanigans and stuff, but that was a fight that we could have seen because Mike Perry was testing himself against Yoel Romero to see how he does at that weight class. But I don't know, man. I mean, I'm probably going to get some heat for this, but I wasn't as happy I was that that Whittaker won. I was not impressed with I don't know. I wasn't impressed with that fight. I know he took some time off. He got dropped in the, I don't know if that was a slipper. He got dropped in that first or second round. But
I think it was inside elbow.
Yeah, it was. You're correct. It was it went right into Till's elbow. And I don't know. I was just kind of like, maybe the Bobby Knuckles that had the gold is starting to fade a little. So, I mean, but then again, he was away for a while. So maybe once he gets back in the mix, odd to me, I found it weird that it's Till that's talking about injury and not Whitaker, because he seems to break after, his last few fights when he was still champion. So I guess we'll see what happens.
On the undercard, one of the names that's kind of exploded this week, Cosmet Chimayev.
Kamzat. Yeah,
Russian
Kamzat Chimaev. Yeah.
born fighter, fighting out of Sweden. Picked up his second win in 10 days. I believe the official stats now show that he has not been hit with a single strike in his first 2 bouts.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if I've ever seen that before, and I think I'd almost have to go UFC 1 maybe. I'd have to go back and see if Art Jimerson landed anything on the ground, but
against Hoist. Yeah.
Hoist, yeah, you got Jimerson, and then he fought Shamrock in his second fight, and I don't think Shamrock landed anything. I think they clinched up, and Hoist choked him out pretty quick. So, I mean, that's going back to UFC 1. So, I mean, I can't think of 2 fights in a row where somebody didn't even get a strike landed on them. So, I mean, that tells you
10 days notice. I mean, the 2 fights in 10 days and you win like that. That's something that, I mean, you were just talking about before how I mean, Dana actually tweeted. It's funny that he's trying to do it, because I tweeted at him. I was like, you got to get that guy to Vegas. You got to bring that guy to Vegas, man, because I mean, and he said something in one of the interviews, post-fight interviews, that he almost got in the UFC as a last-minute alternate for a 205 bout at 205. He made his debut at 185. And he seems set on 170, but it looks like anybody in that 170 to 205 range has something to worry about. And then the ESPN interview that Dana White did yesterday with Brett Okamoto, it's on YouTube already. He said that now it's he's having trouble finding opponents for this guy, and I'm just because like at least a ranked opponent, because obviously if he's as good as he's been displaying, maybe these guys don't want to risk their rankings in the time of Corona, because we know you could come from low level ranking and become an interim champion, as we saw with UFC 249 and Justin Gaethje. So I guess people are playing it a little closer to the vest when it comes to their ranking now.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight the guy.
Nobody would. I don't think anybody wants to fight that guy.
But I think people. But it is a breath of fresh air in a sense that you go through years where you hear prospect. This guy really wasn't on anybody's radar, at least not my radar. And I didn't, so to see him kind of come in and explode on the scene with obvious skills that we've seen with Khabib at the lighter weight, to see it performed flawlessly at welterweight and middleweight is cool. And it's plus he seems like a good dude. I mean, saying all the right things, speaks some English. I think it's just, I think it's it opens the door a lot with, especially as long as Khabib's around. The idea of these guys kind of maining and co-maining some events across the Middle East or even Sweden for that matter, could potentially be quite a money maker for the UFC.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I love seeing guys. I go back to kind of when I saw Khabib, not for the first time, but when I watched him out there in New York when he fought Michael Johnson, and I walked away from that fight going, this guy's the real deal. This is not a hype job. This guy's not squeaking by anybody. He's a mauler that's gonna hurt a lot of people. And I even wrote about it, so it's actually on record of me going, hey, watch out for this guy. And now we look back at Khabib, and he's a couple wins away from really kind of solidifying himself as arguably the greatest fighter in UFC history.
Yeah.
Again, arguably, I'm not gonna wait for the messages to come in about everybody else, but you go 30-0, 31-0, especially with the rumors.
He's my number one, like pound for pound. I mean, he's definitely, like you said, he's 28-0 now, and the when people start naming moves after because it's something you do, and and your culture, like that his whole takedown and grind that people are calling it the Dagestani handcuff now because of him. It's just something that that's GOAT level stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the most talented and dominant fighter that I can think of, in the UFC. But it's still I can't put his resume higher than guys like John Jones and George St. Pierre right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
since I know we switched from Kamzat to Khabib, but you know that news broke earlier today about him and Gaethje for October 24th. Um, I mean, I don't like betting against Justin Gaethje, so I'm gonna go on record now, and I mean, I think Gaethje can spoil his party. He has the potential to do it, and the only reason I say that is because of how he did against a short notice Al Iaquinta right here in Brooklyn. You know that went the I believe that went the distance, and you know one of the concerns for Khabib as far as his fighting that came out of that was his striking, but you know then it seemed like he corrected that when he beat the shit out of McGregor. So I don't know, man, but I see that. I know Khabib is the heavy favorite, but I see that more even than other folks. Maybe it's just me being a bit of a fanboy, but I just felt like I'd say that now since we were talking about him.
no, I think it's a great fight. I think Gaethje has a lot of stylistic matchup problems for Khabib or Habib, but um, but I will never bet against Nurmagomedov until I see
Oh,
some.
so October we're gonna have some beef.
Yeah, I mean we can bet. Yeah, I mean we can do a little side bet. I got $2. Uh,
Yeah. You know
but
that's my max. So $2, and look at it, I got 18 bucks off of we're doomed. So
hey,
yeah,
that'll work. That's a haircut when you can go back to getting haircuts again.
yeah,
Or- But gosh, yeah, I don't know. I look forward to that fight. It seems so long away though. I can't. I don't get it. That's the one thing about like this Fight Island thing that I've kind of enjoyed is like the last minute. A lot of these we haven't been able to think about for months on end. You know, it kind of
yeah.
all was like here. It seems like a month ago they go, "Hey, here are all the fights you're gonna get." You know,
And
and
it's
and
almost like if you announce stuff too early now, especially it's more true than it always because obviously it's been happening with the UFC from your own experience. You know, if you've experienced it firsthand as a ticket holder. You know, shit that's been pushed weeks on end can get dropped day of. So, like you said, it's that's almost refreshing that we actually get like surprise fights with Fight
yeah,
Island.
yeah. No,
You
I mean
know,
that's kind of what I liked. Same with the Bellator card. Like I said, although it wasn't the greatest card ever, just to have it thrown on us basically like on a week notice.
oh, I
Uh,
forgot the guy's name. The one that fought the it was the first fight the heavyweights, I think. That dude that won on 3 days' notice, Shotokan karate guy, Jamaican and Irish. Um, but I was impressed with his technique, not his ground technique, but the striking and the foot sweeps and stuff he did. So, but that's just an example of, like you said, man. It's kind of nice to have these surprise fights.
no doubt. So the UFC card also had a moment that made me a Dan Hardy fan for the first time,
Oh,
and
is this?
in
Are we doing it
yeah.
now? Hold on,
Well,
I made I made a banner for you.
oh no, I'm not. The wrath of Hawk of the
Yeah.
Hawk. Listen. So the Francisco Trinaldo Jai Herbert fight. Um, Trinaldo drops him, sends him chicken legged back to the ground, bounces off the ground, uh, and Trinaldo's standing over him basically in the, Van Dam, I'm gonna break your skull pose.
Oh yeah.
Well, kind of
Yeah.
holding it
Yeah.
over his opponent, and Herb Dean in Herb Dean fashion is standing there uh, watching. Um, I, I understand that's his job to watch the fight as a ref. Look, I'm not going to get into the intricacies of everything that goes on. I'm just going to say it again. Herb Dean is nostalgia is why people like him. He's been around a long time. He's not he's the best in the business. My ass. My ass. He's probably like eighth best in the business. Um, I'll take Beltron uh, over him 8 days a week. I'll take Herzog over him 8 days a week. Uh, I'm not a big fan of big old, uh, you know, your East Coast guy and some of these other guys, but and he's just so inconsistent. It's not that he always lets people die or that he stops them quick. Um, I feel like maybe Abe or Herbert should have just shown him a thumbs up and then he would have stopped it quicker. I mean, it's just that kind of thing it's just so frustrating. And to see Felder and Hardy dig in on him, I definitely enjoyed that because,
yeah, I know you did.
And then did you watch his video he put out?
Yeah, no, I'm waiting for you to finish so I want to, because I got to play devil's advocate for some things too.
Yeah. Because you have Jared Varel, right? Yeah, that's your target.
Jared Varel and Mario Yamasaki. Yeah, those are my least. Those are the ones I don't like. But let me. So you brought up the video. That's one of the things I was going to do to fuck with you on this. So his video, which did you watch it? You watched it or?
Yeah, assuming we're talking about the same 6-minute video where he
basically the one from Instagram. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Terrible audio.
Yeah. So I mean, there's things he said in that though that I agree with, especially in the, we talk about everything you can hear, but the deafening silence of an empty arena. He brought up of Dan Hardy's yelling out as he's, I mean, by his own account, paying attention to the fight. Someone yells something like that out, he could mistake it for someone that should be yelling it out, which I get.
Let me stop you real quick before we go into that. Just your opinion right now, yes or no. Do you think it was a good stoppage or a bad stoppage?
No, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I would have stopped it. Like you said, when
Trinaldo was posed over him.
Yeah, when Trinaldo did the Van Damme pose and this guy wasn't really moving. Okay. I would have stopped it. And then did you see Dan Hardy's response to that?
So, well, I didn't mean to interrupt you completely. I just wanted to kind of get your side of beat while you give your perspective. So in the video, Herb Dean's basically saying that he was thrown off and it was unprofessional for people ringside that aren't the doctor or the other cornermen.
Yeah.
Yelling "Stop the fight!"
Yeah,
and Herb Dean said that threw him off. And
I do agree with him with that. And right now, actually, I'll do a shameless plug really quick. MMAnews.com has me doing reaction pieces every Sunday called Sunday Submissions, and I addressed it on there. This was before Herb Dean put out his video. So my thing was, again, the time difference, the way, I mean, everyone's been pretty honest about how the time difference and the time that they're fighting, it's like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning over there. I would not, plus the travel. And Herb Dean probably won't say this because maybe it's a detriment to being able to fulfill his duties as an official. But maybe he was off his game. Maybe he wasn't all there. Yamasaki to me is never all there. So maybe he was having, experienced that Yamasaki syndrome because of the time difference and the way this whole thing was scheduled. So I'm not making excuses for him. That was just something that I said. And then he brought up his thing with the audio. And I know I actually didn't get to, because Dan Hardy put out his response to Herb Dean's video, which is an hour long, just so you know. I started watching it, and he kind of sets the stage to break down his reasoning. I'm going to finish watching it probably when we're done with this. But Dan Hardy did admit that he agreed with Herb Dean that he had the point about speaking and yelling out, but he's also, in a full arena, everyone's yelling something out, and you and I were probably yelling at home, you got to stop it. I know I definitely said this is over. I did say that I was watching it with my family, because we turned on the fights at my parents' house, and even my parents who don't even watch it were like, you got to stop, that guy's done, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not, I just don't think he's that great of a referee. I think he's declined heavily over the years. I think he didn't know. He says he didn't know he yelled at him. So, I mean, you didn't understand the British guy. You had a Brazilian fighting another international fighter, and you got an Englishman yelling at you. I don't think it would be hard to figure out who that was. But maybe that's just me. I just don't.
One thing Dan Hardy did say from what I did see in his reaction video, he did say that it was this, because he says, if you listen to did you see that video of them arguing?
Yes.
So you can hear Dan Hardy says to him, that's twice already, he says to him. And the other fight was the Tanner Bozer fight, where someone takes a hit to the eye, and Hardy thought that Herb Dean was slow to react too. So it was he was already building up to getting upset. I mean, plus he's also got he's a fighter who trains with fighters. So from his point of view, and I think Paul Felder too sided with Hardy during one of the cuts, the broadcast cuts. So
yeah,
hey, man.
Felder was all aboard. He was just as disgusted by it as Hardy was.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't disgusted by it like those guys were.
You've been disgusted since we started.
I've been disgusted with Herb Dean for half a decade now, or more than that.
Hey, I like him. Like I mean, I always say when we talk about Herb Dean on this podcast, I do like Herb Dean. I don't see him as faulty as you do, but that was not a bad Herb Dean. That was a bad day for Herb Dean. I mean,
I just, if he was a judge and made as many bad judging decisions as he does refereeing decisions, he'd be Adelaide Bird. So I mean, that's just the truth behind it. I mean, it's like every third event now he screws a fight up. I know in theory, I guess he does a good job on some fights, but let's put it this way: if that Trinaldo fight is McGregor and Mendez, he stops that fight with the minute that Hebert touches the ground. If that's Mendez, he does not. It's like, I'm not saying he's paid to stop fights. I'm just saying that he seems to get caught up in the action. He lets CB Dollaway basically get murdered in the cage, and then he has a dude and then again, no matter what he says, we all saw Robbie Lawler give him a thumbs up, and then he stops the fight seconds later. So again, maybe it's just circumstances that work them out, and it makes him look like a donkey. But to me, he looks like a donkey. So that's just. I'm done. I'm not gonna. I hear people say best in the business. Yeah, he's the best in the business if you've been watching UFC since 2017, I guess. But that doesn't say a lot, because we've seen Miragliotta screw up a million times since then. We've seen Goddard screw up a million times since then. We don't have Mizaki, and we don't have Winslow anymore because they Herb Deaned it too many times and got blacklisted. Well, be careful saying that, but yeah, I don't know. It just amazes me that he somehow avoids Dana White's wrath.
Yeah.
And so that's just, I'm seeing some comments come through. So it's catching my Paul Sudibaka.
Late about it. What is he? I didn't even see him pop up.
But I don't know, man. I understand the
disgust, but I don't understand the outburst. I thought it was unprofessional at best.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think it was good for Hardy to stand up and confront him at the event. I thought that was overkill, and that was that just looked stupid. I don't think the right route was taken by him. I don't think it's right to call out Herb Dean right there, like at the scene. Like, that's not my style. But I mean, we could put together quite a highlight reel of Herb Dean screwing up, and I don't think people quite realize how often he does. And maybe I'm hard on him.
I mean, maybe you're hard on him, but I mean, you bring up a good point about the sport's been around for over 20 years. Look at and I know he addressed it on his podcast too. Big John McCarthy knew when to hang it up. You know what I mean? Like there comes a point where maybe your eye is not as keen as it is. And again, I'll drop a link for the Sunday submission thing that I do, but I brought that up too. You do need experienced guys for judges and for refs. Guys like Chris Lieben. Chris Lieben wants to start doing more reffing, and so he can ref higher events and stuff like that. Guys that have been there and that'll make the right call. But they're also training, and they're also keeping in tune with the fighters' motions and stuff like that. And I do know that Herb Dean does still train and stuff like that. But again, sometimes father time catches up with you, and maybe that's what it is with him. But when someone and this is the thing I brought up on the Sunday submission, like Mauro Yamasaki said, I think it was with MMA Fighting or one of those Vox sites. He said that he hadn't trained when some submission, the last controversy he had, he hadn't trained in 3 or 4 years, and it's like, okay, then why are you in there protecting guys in fights when you've got a lazy eye? You know what I mean? Because you can't do that. You can't come in and try to be the outsider looking in that's supposed to be objective if your mind is not sharp enough to what's happening. You know what I mean? You can't just stand there and collect a paycheck and look off into the fucking audience like Yamasaki does. And I'm saying that because that's what he was doing when him and Matt Hughes and Trigg kicked each other in the balls. I mean, if you watch that, he's not even looking at the fight. So it's yeah.
Well, and that was my issue with McCarthy. You say McCarthy knew when it was time to get out, and whether he just had other opportunities or not. You see, guys, they start to get lazy in the cage, and Big John would even kind of stand around, and it's like, that's why I like Herzog and I like Beltran, because I feel like they're all kind of, and maybe I'm just being biased, but it's almost like when I picture Herzog in my mind refereeing a fight, he's kind of in like the half squat position, like really focused on what's going on, kind of working his lateral movement back and forth to keep an eye on what's going on. And my picture of Herb Dean is just kind of him, just kind of lazily standing in the cage, walking back. I mean, he almost got was in the main event fight. I think Whitaker, one of those guys, almost ran into him, because he was behind him, and that can happen. That's not a complete fault of his, but we'll see. It happens on these smaller fights. No one really notices. We talk about it in social media. We talk about it on podcasts, but he screws up he's a big time fight away from getting the blacklist that I think he screws up. He screws up a McGregor fight. He screws up a Khabib fight. I mean, let's just say he's the referee for Justin and Khabib, and he stops that and costs Khabib his undefeated record with some kind of BS, stoppage, or, again, it's with him. It's so inconsistent. Some guys stop fights quick. Some let guys get, Yamasaki's beef was not, or beef with him was that he wasn't stopping fights quick. The beef with Yamasaki was he watched people get like assaulted beyond, what the rules say in the cage, and they were getting mauled in front of him, and he didn't stop fights.
CD Baca agrees with you, 100% correct. Herb just slowly sulks around the octagon.
That's exactly it. I mean, he's again, and I'm the last one to go after anybody's physique or anything, but he just kind of stands there. He just kind of looks like a schlub. And again, maybe that's not affecting how he's refereeing fights, but he certainly doesn't. He doesn't seem like he's the attentive Herb Dean that I remember. If you go back to the early 2000s when he was reffing. I mean, again, people don't realize that these guys have been around for a long time now. 20 years that Herb Dean's basically been refereeing UFC fights. Give or take a year or two. I can't remember exactly when he came in. I mean, we had Larry Landless, and people forget there was kind of a clan that only did UFC fights. You had Larry Landless, you had Yamasaki.
Yeah.
And then Herb Dean was kind of the next small wave of people that came in through there and joined that crew. But I just don't. It just doesn't seem like he has the fire there, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's his personality that's just as he's gotten older. But
or maybe it was jet lag, Matt.
There's a lot of things that could be, but to me, that's not an excuse when you're refereeing.
I'm just doing that to fuck with you.
No, I hear you. I know, but I guess the other thing is, like, I know in boxing we know some of the referees' names. We see guys from social media.
What's that dude's name that gets real
exactly?
Into
Was it Williams or Steve Williams? Is that?
I forget his name.
Anyways, and the main one we know is Miles Lane or Mills Lane.
Well, that's from back in the day, though.
But I'm just saying, but that's my point, I guess. Like you could, I mean, there are very few baseball fans can name umpires.
I'm gonna name baseball,
or football. I mean, like you know the couple of the referees because they've been there for like 60 years in like football. I mean, you'll have old men that you've watched.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So you recognize, but it's not like you go like if I feel like Herb Dean's kind of like the Dana White. Like everybody knows Herb Dean. If you know the referee's name, he's not doing a great job. I mean, that's just straight up. You wouldn't talk about, like, I can't tell you who refereed the other 14 fights on the card. You know why? Because they didn't screw up.
Well, I know one of the guys looks like the old UFC logo.
No, there's some characters. There's one guy who kind of looks like a mini King Kong Bundy. Yeah, no, I mean,
there's the dude that they keep calling the baby Brock Lesnar. I forget his name.
There you go. I mean, but anyways, I just hope that he
Well,
doesn't screw up a big fight. And
speaking of guys getting old, with the last 10 minutes, I wanted to. I don't remember if we got in depth with it, but Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. What's your take on it? It's going to be in your neck of the woods, September 12th. You got any thoughts or predictions or anything you want to say
I mean,
about that?
it's not a real fight. It's an exhibition. So I think anybody that spends $50 to watch an exhibition 8-round boxing match is out of their damn mind. Now I will watch it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
But anybody who spends $50 to watch that fight has too much money to spend. I mean that it's not a real fight. If they're not trying to knock each other out, then I don't want to watch it, or I don't want to pay for it. The nostalgia's there. This is a fight that would have been friggin' awesome 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, this would have been a barn burner for the centuries. That people, even post prison, Tyson against Roy Jones would have done numbers that are astronomical. When Roy Jones,
I feel like I like what Tyson's trying to do, though. I know not everybody's going to agree with it, but this Legends Only League that he's announced, this is their first event.
is that
I
what he's
mean,
trying to do? He's putting together like a
yeah,
little road show of older guys to kind of
yeah. I
have an
mean,
exhibition.
obviously, another fight on that card is some YouTuber versus some NBA dude. But I mean, it's obviously their first event. They're just trying to fill it up during the time of Corona. But I mean, the pitch, they have a YouTube channel too. You should check it out. If you look at their website, Legends Only League, there's a promo video there where it's something that Tyson is behind that he's doing. That he said it's for the guys like him, that if you feel like you still got one left in you, come do an exhibition. He said it doesn't have to be just boxing. He said soccer, other sports. So this might be where we see the Vitor Belforts and all these guys, pop up and do a one-off event. Maybe, I mean, shit. I mean, if they do Fedor and Randy Couture, that'll do like I mean, I think that would make some serious money for them. But
Yeah, I mean, but that's we start talking about regular fights where guys are actually trying to hurt each other.
yeah,
From the way I understand it, this is like basically a sparring session. So if that's the case, I say
juice up some old boxers and let them bang. Hey, I mean,
yeah.
we do have that just bleed mentality in the demographic here at Coast to Coast Combat Hour.
Hey,
So
listen, it's fun in theory and it can be fun to watch, but if one of us, if it was a real fight, realistically, Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, one of them is probably leaving on a stretcher.
are gonna have some long-term damage.
I mean, so it's fun to talk about, but we're talking about dudes in their 50s. This isn't 1990 where we're like, oh my God, Foreman's 39 and wrecking shop. We're
Yeah.
talking these guys are, due to medications and all the ability to stay healthier. These guys are able to do this into their later age, but
Who
let me
knows
put
if
this.
if they're going to get cleared for September? I mean, that's like you said about the October. September is a way off too. I mean, with everything going on, who knows if the CSAC is going to clear them? And like you said too, man. I mean, it's I'm obviously I want to watch out. Big fan of both guys, but I mean, it is yeah. Everyone's going off that Tyson's training videos, and Roy Jones puts his training videos up. But everybody looks good when they're training, I mean,
No, exactly.
everyone looks good
And
when they're training. If I drill some moves and put it on this YouTube channel, you're gonna think I'm freaking ADCC level grappler. But my instructor dragged my ass all up and down the mat last Friday, made me feel like a 2-year-old. So
yeah, I mean, if you ask me to pick a winner, I would pick Roy Jones Jr. just based off the fact that he's competed in
more
actual
recently,
boxing
yeah,
matches much more recently.
2018 I think was his last.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking, a year and a half basically, roughly since his last fight, whereas Tyson hasn't fought in what are we talking, like 12, 13 years now, 14 years. Um, so
Yeah,
I think that's the game changer right there. Plus, I think that again, it might be some heat. I loved watching Tyson fight. I loved playing the video game, but I think if we're talking about skill as a boxer, I'll take Roy Jones Jr. over Mike Tyson. That's just the way I see it. Maybe I'd have to see them both in the size wise, because size was always the issue for Tyson when he fought bigger guys. But when he fought technical guys like Holyfield and stuff, the guys that were technical and really knew the game of boxing, much like Roy Jones does, or did especially, that would have given Tyson fits if he's not able to knock him out early. So I don't know. I mean, if it's a real fight though, they both, Jones' chin kind of shot too. So
That's
I don't know.
what a lot of folks are saying. I think the odds that came out, that's one of the people that were the odds makers, that Tyson's the favorite because of, Jones. People are worried about Jones taking Tyson level power shots.
The question is it a real fight? Right now we're being told it's an exhibition 8-round fight.
Mm-hmm.
California generally has a fairly stringent athletic commission who normally although they gave us Golden Boy, they probably wouldn't historically give us a 54-year-old versus a 51-year-old boxing match in a professional fight under professional boxing rules. So with that said, devil's advocate or conspiracy theory, if these dudes really wanted to fight in real life, you could say it's an exhibition fight. The minute that bell rings, there's nothing to stop it from turning into a real boxing fight. The only thing that'll be different is that they will have given you probably bigger gloves. I think they normally fight with 10-ounce gloves. You train with 16-ounce, so maybe they're going to force them to wear 12, 14, or 16-ounce gloves. So dudes
look at the Mayweather tension exhibition. He blasted him across the ring.
That was kind of the same kind of thing. It was an exhibition match until tension kind of showed like he wanted to do something, and then Mayweather said, "Okay, I'm going to put you down 5 times or 4 times, whatever the heck it was."
Yeah.
So we could see that, but I don't know. We'll talk more about it when it gets closer. I like to talk. I like seeing their names in the news. So, like I said, I'll watch it, but we'll see. So, kind of wraps up our show this week. There is a UFC this Saturday. Back at the Apex. Not going to go through the card, but another fight night card.
And one last LFA for the month, their final card on Friday, UFC Fight Pass. I believe it's LFA 87? 86?
It might be 87.
Yeah.
84, 85. Yeah, 87. You're right. So there's that. And then come next week, we'll be able to look forward to another big Bellator event. Cool UFC fight. Olenek and Lewis.
Which I may or may not be on site for, COVID permitting.
Yeah, so next week will be kind of up in the air for everything. We're going to kind of play it by ear and see how everything unfolds as far as our podcast time. Until then, fans can find us at allaccessmma.com. Brings the show to you. You can follow us on Twitter at Combat Hour, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed on at Twitter at Carbazol and Instagram at Carbeerzol. So that'll do it. Also, quick before we sign off, I don't know if you saw it. I just want to send best wishes to Anthony Rocco Martin, who's dealing with a staph infection in the hospital.
He actually mentioned the knee issue on this show like a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just saw that a little bit before we came on air. So he seems to be improving, might get sent home and stuff. Staph infection's nothing to mess with. I know personally that it can do a lot of damage based off, stuff in my family. I've seen family members go through some tremendous stuff with it. So stay healthy, dude. All the best. And get healthy, get a new UFC contract, and we'll talk to you again. Until then, everybody, signing off here. Have a good rest of the week.
Peace.